Do you want to start?
You go. You've Racing Post there,
Actually,
right
so the
at
Racing
the top.
Post is the top one, and this is actually a lovely story. So Holly Doyle, I did a little piece, you'll find it on my Twitter feed or whatever, with Vanessa May, who's made incredible strides as a rider. Female flat jockeys wouldn't be exactly common in Ireland. They've done very little actually for years, but it's slightly different in Britain for whatever reason. Josie Gordon, ex-champion apprentice, and Holly Doyle beat her record of winners in a year, 107 winners in a calendar year, comfortably before the end of the year. Holly, a really, really good rider, making great strides and doing wonders, I think, for the prospect of young kind of up-and-coming girls who might have an interest in racing getting into what is obviously a dangerous sport but an exhilarating one as well. So that's the top of the Racing Post.
I've got the back page here of the Irish Independent, the sports section, and the big story, I think, is what everyone is waiting for at around 12 o'clock this afternoon. FAI expected to reveal debt bomb of more than €50 million. This story from Aidan Fitzmaurice and John Fallon. So they say Irish football is being told to prepare for a bomb when the FAI's accounts are presented today. Debts of €50 million expected, and quotes from the former CEO Bernard O'Byrne, who says that any possible new sponsors to take over from Three would likely stay away from a toxic FAI until more changes are made at board level.
Joe is in my ear. He's just wondering, is the debt bomb an actual quote? Because he likes the quote.
It is quoted as saying bomb, yes. It's in inverted commas.
The Indo have done an interesting thing here. They went to kind of one of the former guys who knew what he was talking about, Bernard O'Byrne, who's now involved in the Basketball Ireland, I think.
Yeah, and there's more from him as well on the inside of the paper there as well, actually speaking to Aidan Fitzmaurice.
He speaks about how he's friendly with Paul Cook, and Aidan has some very good stuff on that. I know at the end of the piece then he references Shane Ross and kind of the FAI board having absolutely no relationship with Ross, but he does have some really notable points about the lack of communication to people within the FAI about what's actually happening. And the this is just so gloriously Irish. The FAI had its Christmas party last night. Now, if ever there was a day not to be hungover, it's like, it's just, but it's.
And they're saying as well, €50 million debt is. It's a conservative estimation, is what a lot of people are saying as well.
It's going to be carnage, and Aidan has a good line about John Delaney's kind of prediction that the debt could be gone by the end of 2020. His line is something like, this is laughable were it not actually such a serious matter. And there are going to be cutbacks and there are going to be job losses because of the ineptitude of the FAI's running over the last while. And it's sad on a human level. It's also sad because so many clubs are waiting on money, and grants, and Sports Ireland obviously have still kind of just called a halt to any dealings with the FAI. So it's quite tragic in sporting terms.
It really is, yeah. And there's lots more on it. I might actually jump in before you go to the we actually do the back page of the sports section of the Irish Times. Like Emmett Malone has some good stuff really on it here. Like, you know, also confirmation expected today of what the final payment John Delaney would have been given from the FAI is. I haven't heard many people talking about that as well. It's just been the sheer size of the debt, and obviously that is a huge thing.
It's actually a sideshow at this stage. There's so many other things going on, I suppose.
But he's got a very good opening paragraph. If wider Ireland's anything to go by, a decade after the crash, it's hard to feel confident that the lessons of what went wrong at the FAI will really be learned here at home. But they may well be taught the world over. Lecturers in law, business or sports governance might construct entire courses around the mismanagement of football's governing body during the past decades or more. Students in turn will be amused, amazed and horrified by the tales of ineptitude, denial and excess. It is hard to imagine a single one of those classes will be delivered without the mention of the name of former Chief Executive John Delaney. That's from Emmett Malone in the Irish Times this
without proposing the notion in any way, shape or form that journalists had an agenda in this, because they didn't. All through the last 10, 15 years, football journalists were trying to report on what was going on at the FAI, and eventually got to the stage where they basically couldn't ask questions anymore. But you can tell from the articles since John Delaney's sort of demise that from the likes of Emmett, from Aidan Fitzmaurice, from Daniel MacDonald, from Neil O'Riordan, from Owen Cowser and so on and so forth, they are simmering with anger over the way they were sort of treated and sidelined. And it's coming out now, and Emmett's done some great stuff on it, but it's just that's what happens when you've a dysfunctional regime and kind of power is vested in too few people.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lesson to be learned.
Certainly
No power in Silva anymore at Everton. This is the Daily Telegraph. Silva bullet, manager sacked by Everton after 10-hour wait at training ground. Pereira tops Goodison wanted list as Ferguson takes temporary charge. And yeah, that was I suppose that was the sacking that was always going to happen, whether it was before or after Unai Emery was the question.
Yeah, and I was a bit surprised when it came to the timing of it. Like,
we have the same headline here, actually.
there's a few of them that have gone with it.
It's rare enough you get that. It's not like they have like a WhatsApp group of all the sub-editors of the paper say, well, I'm going with this, don't go with that tomorrow.
I was wondering though, is sometimes
this is the mirror.
Is the pun a little bit so obvious that sometimes do they look at it and go, everyone's going to have that one.
I'm a man for simplicity. I think, you know, sometimes less is more. And less is more would sum up Jim Gavin in many ways in terms of his media interaction. But it's better for everyone that I left Jim. And this is Mick Scully, who was talking to him at the Phillips Managerial Awards, or was quoting him from that. Is it better for everyone that he left? It's questionable. Dublin players apparently in tears when he left and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
He's been a huge part of them. He's, you know, for a lot of them, he's been the only manager they've known.
Tommy Rooney had a tweet saying he was a little bit frustrated by the silence of the players afterwards.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
I don't know. I don't know. Just off the top of my head, even I'm trying to figure out how many of them are very active on social media.
It's not social media. It's just like, give me a line in Jim Gavin. It's not like Jim was an asshole. It's like Jim was great. That's all I need.
Yeah.
But the players have. I don't know. I think they were a bit shocked by it, and they've been so used to that Dublin media regime for so long. They're just like, nah, don't fancy it.
I don't know. Like, completely guessing, I'd say it probably did come out.
And that's what we do on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Completely guessing, based on nothing but a hunch. I'd say I doubt too many of the players knew it had happened, knew it was going to happen until it was, until it was public and announced. I think Jim Gavin's always been the kind of guy that he goes about his own business very, very quietly, and I'd say it's very hard to kind of get beyond the outer shell when it comes to him as well. Staying on Dublin GA though, because the front of the sports section of the Irish Times today, there's a couple of Dublin-related pieces. First, decision to step down in the interest of Dublin. Gavin, just as we had there on, what newspaper was it, just a moment ago?
That was the Mirror, yeah.
Yeah, these are the same quotes from the Signify Sports Manager of the Year Awards. No longer that other title.
Ah.
Yeah.
I apologise. Yeah, that was quite should signify that actually.
You should. Yeah.
There were a lot of journalists at the old Jolly Up. I missed out this year.
Did you? Yeah.
It's always interesting to pit managers together from different sports, including horse racing trainers, and I think they genuinely do enjoy meeting people that aren't in their sport.
Yeah.
And journalists, obviously.
But also as well over on the left-hand side, Gavin Comiskey writing, Costello questions standards at RTE. So John Costello, the Dublin GA chief executive, has questioned the standards and editorial choice adopted by RTE's primetime show in the immediate aftermath of the capital football team clinching an historic 5 in a row of All-Ireland titles. In his wide-ranging annual missive, he addresses primetime, suggesting that due to Dublin's abundant resources of population and sponsorship, there will never again be real equality in the game. So yeah, not too happy with that. It seems that John Costello's report every year is something that, it's one of those things that people just, journalists like really just set their watches to.
It's like the bishop and the priest in the pulpit. He's going to be giving out about something.
See what John Costello has to say this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think I think there's a fair bit of merit in that primetime report, to be fair. Here is the Irish Daily Star. Goodbye. I don't get this, actually. Goodison, is it? Or
Goodison, that's it, yeah. It's tame.
I'm not mad on that one now. It's gone from bad to worse. Arsenal's worst run since 1977, 5 years before I was born. Back in the days of proper football, terraces and, just working class people watching players getting a working class wage, more or less. But there you have today's modern player, David Luiz, reacting angrily, and Lundberg hasn't gone great for him so far, and obviously then Silva axed as Everton look to Moyes Jim rules out going elsewhere. And then we should mention this as well. Duo slam headline: Chris Smalling and Romelu Lukaku have slammed Italian newspaper Corriere dello Sport for labelling their upcoming reunion tonight, Black Friday. I mean,
how you can justify it is.
I've been to Italy many times. Like, it's just their attitude to this stuff is. I don't know. I mean, it's just how they thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. I think they've kind of doubled down on it as well.
They have, which does that make it? I don't know. Yeah, leaves a lot to be desired, their attitude towards racism in that country.
Absolutely. Silva Bullet that's 3 for Silver Bullet. Oh, we got 4 there.
Silva.
We have another one just
they
there
didn't
down
have
below.
the WhatsApp group going.
They certainly did. This is on this is the Guardian, I think. Yeah. So Silva Bullet Ferguson steps up after Everton put manager out of Goodison misery. I am kind of looking forward to seeing Duncan Ferguson as a Premier League manager. I have to say.
Like, do you remember Duncan Ferguson as a player?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that young, John.
You are
Jeez.
quite. Well, I'm kind of flattering you here, but Big Dunk. I used to obviously be a Liverpool fan back in the day, and Goodison for the derby games would be rocking. And in Liverpool's days when they were pretty shaky at the back, which was much of the early to mid '90s, Big Dunk was a nightmare. And you know, this notion, you see him on the pitch, and he would strike fear in you. Apparently, he's a great bloke. He does lots of good stuff off the pitch and very, very much respected, and old style forward with a good left foot, but impossible to deal with in the box.
It would have been absolutely. Imagine how much fun it would have been the other night. Duncan Ferguson managing Everton, the Merseyside derby at Anfield.
I don't know. I suppose the chasm is so great at the moment. It might have been like if you had an Everton team that could challenge Liverpool. Liverpool made 5 or 6 changes. Actually, I put it to you, Neil Treacy.
Let's go for it.
Jonathan Higgins of our stable, he said, like, you know, he was making the point about Salah being dropped. He was like, what would have happened if Salah had been dropped earlier this season? Would Liverpool be doing even better? Because Origi was very good the other night. Salah's been poor. He's not himself.
How much, like...
Everton were crap as well, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even if Liverpool were to have been better, it's just better in terms of, like, goal difference, isn't it?
There aren't many games they would have won because they've won nearly every game. They might have
won all but one of them. Yeah, maybe you're talking
Salah
Champions
was
League and stuff.
poor in both Napoli games.
If you're talking Premier League, like, I mean, they would only be 2 points better off at a maximum.
I'm going to say this, and I think the love-in for Salah masks how badly he's been playing in many games over the last season and a third. Origi should definitely be challenging for a place more regularly, I think, because Origi's not a bad player. He was brilliant the other night, dovetailed brilliantly with Mane, did a great relationship. Mane and Salah's relationship this year has not been what it should be. I don't know what's going on with Salah. Obviously, he's carrying an injury, but he breaks down so many Liverpool attacks where the Salah of 2 years ago would just score. And it may also go down to the fact that he's had barely a break from football for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. And he's such a good player. I think he shouldn't be sacrosanct in terms of being dropped.
No, definitely not.
Freddie's Nightmare is a really clever headline in the Irish Daily Mail. And Lundberg with an expression that kind of is to say, what have I gotten myself in for here, or how crap is this Arsenal team? Everton fire boss and call in Big Dunk. And Gavin, I've no regrets. So consistency in terms of the narrative across the papers this morning.
Yeah, same as well on the back page of the Times. Everton sacked Silva and turned to Ferguson. But also over on this side of the page, Paul Hurst saying, players urge United, don't act Solskjaer. Man United's players told the club's hierarchy before their key victory against Spurs that they should not sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Solskjaer's position as United manager had come under scrutiny after winning only 4 of his opening 14 games last season, but the squad remained convinced that the former Norway striker is the right man to take the club forward. I'm baffled by Manchester United, I have to say. I really fancied Spurs to beat them the other night, and probably read a bit too much into Mourinho's. I think that's what's frustrating United fans so much.
Watch them against Sheffield United and Villa.
Yeah.
I can't say how bad they were, and then they were at it the other night. Yeah. They weren't great, but they were much, much better.
And like the game against Liverpool at Old Trafford was probably up until the Spurs game the best performance of the season, and I'd say on another day they probably should have won that game. Mm-hmm. And then they go, you're talking all those other results as well. And the early season games, like, off the top of my head, Crystal Palace, that's when they, came from behind the last minute and all of a sudden conceded another goal to lose again. It's 2 steps forward and 2 steps back.
You watched them the other night, Neil. Like, if they could play a tactical game that's all about breaking on the counter, because defensively they're fine defensively in general. They've been good defensively this season, particularly in Europe. If they could develop a game plan that basically involves pace on the break, Spurs were really at 6s and 7s defensively against them the other night. Now the goals were they weren't things of beauty, but Spurs were struggling, and they've so much pace, and they haven't had Pogba, and it's kind of hard to know what'll happen with him, because obviously there are rumours that Solskjaer has kind of run out of patience.
With Pogba?
Yeah, it's like, what's his influence in the dressing room? He hasn't been playing for quite a while now, and it's like... But anyway, they still have issues, but I think Solskjaer definitely bought himself quite a bit of time.
He's definitely bought himself, probably talking another, at least another couple of months, probably.
The best headline we have saved until last, and to be fair to the Sun, it often does come up with the best. Flop Silva has cost him 16 million. Toffee donuts. Board split over move for Moyes. Moyes would be an interesting one. They say he should never go back and all that.
I was reading in another couple of places, it looks like it's not going to happen. I think they've spoken about it, but I don't think too many people are that keen. And from what I can read, any of what I've seen, it seems like they're at a stage where they don't really know what they're after at the moment. Like the other name floating around was Jorge Jesus. He's managing Flamengo, but he doesn't speak English, so that obviously is a problem, as a lot of people would have pointed out when Unai Emery was at Arsenal. That was the language barrier was an issue. So it's kind of, it's hard to see, who's available for Everton, who they go about getting.
Do you know what is interesting about Everton, right? They're in the bottom 3.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the teams above them. Southampton are going pretty well at the moment. Villa, not a bad side. Were excellent against Man United. I think they'll be confident enough of staying up. West Ham would definitely think they should be in a better position than they are. Bournemouth have been consistently excellent under Eddie Howe. Then you have Newcastle, who are going really well, Burnley and Brighton. Everton at the moment wouldn't be guaranteed to stay up the way they're playing, and it'll be very interesting, because a lot of those teams ahead of them will actually fancy their chance of finishing ahead of Everton, I think, which would be catastrophic for the Toffees. I don't know when they were last relegated.
Yeah, well, long before the Premier League era anyway. But even just looking at the table, like, I'd say two teams that we feeling a bit concerned, West Ham and Bournemouth, definitely. I know West Ham had a win recently enough, but they've had desperate form since...
Coach under pressure?
Since what was a really, really good start to the season. And Bournemouth as well. Like Bournemouth go through spells, I think, in every season where they have a disastrous couple of months, and they're the kind of team that they can pick off 4 or 5 wins in the space of 6 or 7 games, and all of a sudden it shoots them back up the table, and they're feeling a lot more comfortable again. But there is a fine scrap going to be had between, like, anyone in the bottom 10 realistically is in a bit of bother. Like Newcastle somehow up in 11th place.
I got to give it to
halfway,
Steve Bruce.
more or less halfway. Now they're playing wretched football.
Who cares?
Yeah,
who cares? Like,
I'm laying out both sides of this.
Yeah,
now.
They got a draw at home to Man City Saturday, which I think, like, nobody would have given them a chance. I think Bruce, the regime he's in dealing with there, taking over from one of the best coaches in the world, arguably, in Benitez, and he's a local lad. People probably said, they'll get relegated. They're level with Arsenal, and they're 11th at the moment. And fair play to Bruce, like, for they had a desperate start, and the players came out and said it's not good enough. He's a likeable bloke. He's done a great job so far. He really has.
Yeah. But like we'll say, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Newcastle fan last night after they'd won, and I was saying to him, like, I know how he felt when Steve Bruce came in at the start of the season, how much doom and gloom, and I was saying, like, obviously you're still pining for Rafa, you're still pining for the X, and I was saying, like, are you
pining for the X?
Yeah,
it's just bringing it to a new level of.
But I was going to say, like,
there.
Is there somebody that's kind of torn that they're actually getting those results? They're in a comfortable place in the table, halfway towards the 40 points.
Are you still pining for the X?
But is there an element of frustration that Steve Bruce is doing this and the football's awful, and you're kind of... He said that, like, you're definitely torn.
So many love analogies there. Yeah. Something is... The football is awful.
Because also
torn.
As well, but like we'll say, if Steve Bruce...
Relationship's going better than you thought.
If Steve Bruce gets them a mid-table finish this season, then...
No longer pining for the X.
No, but we'll move away from the X for now.
Forget about
We're going to
the X.
move on from the X.
That was a year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if they get a good mid-table finish and, you know, in that
The
middle
table is a
third,
little bit
middle
optimistic.
third of the table, you know, in that,
That no man's land.
yeah, that no man's land, which
is underrated, by the way.
yeah, but it's which for them at the start of the season would have been a great finich. All of a
100%.
sudden, Mike Ashley probably looks at it and go, "I've done a decent job this year with this club," you know. I would say there are a lot of fans out there that they want things to go a little bit bad because
Ashley might go.
Ashley might go. If things start to improve, Ashley might try stick around a little bit longer.
I saw Mike Ashley outside, I think it was Hogan's. Like it was outside a bar in Dublin. He was on the phone.
Like recently enough.
2 summers ago, maybe.
Oh, right.
But it was around the time there was a lot of chat about Benitez, and it was one of those moments where I want this lad to kind of, when you see a celebrity who's basically having a drink or he's having a coffee or whatever, he doesn't want to be bothered by people annoying him.
Yeah.
So I was like, this could be a really good interview. Like, he's on the phone. I could go, Mike, what's the crack? Welcome to Dublin. And fill them with absolute plumos. Like, I mean, you get such a bad press. Like, you're actually a good lad. You're a businessman. Look at your achievements. And by the way, would you fancy a pint? And all of a sudden, but I bottled it and I didn't do anything. Anyway, but, I don't know what he was doing in Dublin, but he's an intriguing character. But Newcastle, it's an intriguing season. They are up to 11th in the table. And before we finish with the Premier League, who wins the scrap for 4th? Chelsea at the moment 6 points ahead of Wolves. Man United 8 points behind Chelsea.
I think Chelsea will.